What is up, guys? Rick Cactus here, and today we are going to be showcasing a pretty damn awesome melee-focused build for the Titan in Destiny. Now, of course, my last build video was the Ultimate Rockets build, showcasing how to make the absolute most out of your heavy ammo drops and how to use your rocket launcher basically like a primary weapon. And I was thinking, my goodness, how do I top that? How do I top rockets in the face all the time? And then it dawned on me, of course, punches in the face all the time. And that's why today we are going over the ultimate melee build for the Titan. Guys, this is going to let you punch absolutely everything and everybody in the face. The melee synergy for this build is off the charts. It is so much fun to play. And apart from being just an absolute blast to play, going and punching and shoulder charging absolutely everything, this build is more effective and more useful than I actually thought it would be. It was surprisingly useful in the current Heroic Strike playlist, which is Arc Burn, and this is going to be an Arc focused subclass. We're using the Striker subclass for this build, so it is surprisingly effective in the Heroic Strike playlist, and it is absolutely so much fun, and again, surprisingly effective in Archon's Forge as well. And if you're feeling really frisky, you can even take this into PvP as well. But let's get on to the actual build, and this build is built around, boy, Bob the Builder up in here. This build is built around the exotic gauntlets added in the Rise of Iron, the Thagomizers. These gauntlets we're using for the exotic perk 1-2 Punch. This has absolutely insane melee focus capabilities. This perk basically makes the build. What it does is firstly give you an extra melee charge, which is of course exactly what you want. You get double the melee capabilities, and that extra melee charge is going to be so much more useful as we get on with the synergy involved in this build. But it also gives you the node Amplify in the Striker subclass for free. And actually, we're then going to move on to covering what to pick in the Striker subclass, because there is so much involved just in this subclass, more so than the actual gear we're picking. So in the Striker subclass, in of course the melee node in the Storm Fist selection, again, Amplify is given for free. What this does, as you can see, is that it massively increases your charge towards your Fist of Havoc every time you get a kill with Storm Fist. And you can see from the gameplay right here, if you look at the charge, when I get that kill with Storm Fist, it really does massively increase it. Like, that is a huge chunk of super energy you've gained for getting a simple melee kill. And now you can see some of the benefits of getting 2 melee charges. If you get 2 melee kills right away, you've basically gone from 0 to half of your Storm Fist charged almost instantly. Getting the Amplify node for free also means that we get to pick another node, and I've gone with the Overload node. What this does is it firstly reduces the cooldown of your Storm Fist. Very useful, just letting you use it more often. It also makes it so that when you get a kill with Storm Fist, or when you utilize your Storm Fist, you have a chance to immediately recharge it without any cooldown whatsoever. You can absolutely go off with the Overload mechanic. I have multiple times gone to 4-5 Storm Fist charges without ever having to endure a cooldown. And that means if you ever do get 4 Storm Fists in a row, which is again very possible because you have 2 charges, you basically instantly recharge your Fist of Havoc. You get your super back in a matter of seconds when you go off with the Overload perk. It is insane how effective it can be. Now, of course, with all of these melees, you're going to be right up in everyone's biznatch. You're going to be right up cracking skulls right next to your enemies. And therefore, you're going to be taking a lot of damage. You need some resiliency. And that's where the subclass node in the Striker, Transfusion, comes into play. This is so useful for this build. What it does is that it immediately triggers your health regeneration whenever you get a kill with Stormfist or Shoulder Charge. And of course, because of this ability triggering with Shoulder Charge, we of course have to select Shoulder Charge. But because Shoulder Charge does count as a melee kill, there's going to be more synergies that pop up with it as we move on. But Shoulder Charge aside, Transfusion is incredibly useful. It is basically the thing that makes this build possible to use in a heroic strike. Otherwise, you would just take way too much damage. You'd be dying all the time. Now, of course, when using this build, you are probably still going to die a little bit more than if you're using a traditional gun-based build and staying in the back. But Transfusion really increases your resiliency, and it has saved my life, countless times when using this build. It is essential to making this build work. Now, let's move off of the subclass and talk about the other gear components involved in this build. Firstly, with the primary weapon, the Monte Carlo Exotic Auto Rifle. If you're gonna have a melee focused build, the Monte Carlo just screams synergy, and that's because of its exotic perk, the Monte Carlo Method. What this perk does is that when you deal damage with this weapon, it's going to significantly reduce your melee cooldown, and you can really see it happen. Like, as you're shooting an enemy, you see your melee speed up so much faster in its cooldown. And upon a kill with this weapon, you have a chance to just instantly recharge your melee. The Monte Carlo becomes useful in a variety of different scenarios. You can't punch absolutely everything, no matter how much you'd want to. There's often, a platform off in the distance with a sniper or a shanks or whatever on it, and you can use the Monte Carlo to take down those enemies that are out of range of your melees while recharging all of your melees so that you can go back to town punching and knocking teeth out. So the Monte Carlo is quite useful in this build. I definitely, you're gonna have a harder time getting those melees without running the Monte Carlo. However, I was surprised by how little I had to use it. I really thought I would have to use the Monte Carlo, all the time. Punch some stuff, get, 3 or 4 kills, and stop, use the Monte Carlo on a bunch of enemies, recharge that, and go again. But that's really not the case. You can go extended periods of time without ever using the Monte Carlo because of the other synergies within your build, especially with that overload perk in your subclass. Your melees often instantly recharge just because of that without having to use the Monte Carlo method. However, moving on, there is one more gear component to this build, and that is a damn good shotgun. You're of course going to be up close and personal with a bunch of enemies when using this build. I mean, it's a melee focused build, and so a shotgun goes hand in hand with that strategy. You can't kill every enemy with a single punch, and often yellow health enemies can prove a bit problematic when trying to punch them to death, and that's when a shotgun can really help you out. Use the shotgun to take down the Reaver Captain and then just go back to punching the normal Dregs and Vandals. Now, the best part about using the shotgun is that you can actually get even more melee synergies. This 44 curtain call that I was using, I got an absolute amazing roll on recently. Luckily, first off, it rolled with arc damage, so it really synergizes with the rest of this build, and it was absolutely going above and beyond when doing the arc burn heroic strike playlist. Like, it was so much fun using it there. But you can also get several, again, melee focused perks on your shotguns. You can get the perk Up Close and Personal, making it so that you get 25% bonus melee damage after you land a hit with your shotgun. Obviously quite useful. I got the perk Cascade, making it so that melee kills automatically reload a portion of this weapon's magazine. Now, what that actually does is that every time I get a melee kill, it adds one more bullet into the magazine, and that can actually be quite useful. When you shoot a guy to death, when you shoot, a yellow health servitor, let's say, to death in the Archon's Forge, you're likely going to take 3 or 4 shotgun bullets to do so. So instead of having to sit there, reload, and get shot at, you can just punch an enemy, get an extra bullet into your shotgun magazine, and by the way, 1 bullet from this shotgun, because it is a relatively higher damage dealing shotgun, is more than enough to kill an enemy. So you can basically just string together shotgun kill, melee, shotgun kill, melee, almost infinitely. Of course, you will run out of reserve ammo because it does take your reserve ammo to put back into the magazine, but if you have like 8 to 10 shotgun bullets in your reserve ammo, you can extend the period of time before you actually have to reload with this weapon like insanely long. You can basically go an entire Archon's Forge with never having to reload, just punching stuff to get your ammo back. Now that is it for the key components of this build. There are of course several other things that you can do to improve this build. So much gear has perks that actually influence your melee, like rain blows making you melee quicker. There's stuff that makes your grenades recharge your melee more, or your melee recharge your grenades more, all that stuff, and that of course synergizes very well with this build, but it's definitely not essential. All you really need to go toe to toe with the other players in your fire team during a heroic strike is firstly the Thagomizers, of course, a proper subclass setup for the striker, a good shotgun, and probably the Monte Carlo. Honestly, you don't exactly need the Monte Carlo. The build is that good without it, but it definitely helps. And guys, I would definitely highly recommend you try out, if you can, this build in the Archon's Forge, even on a perfected offering. Running around and using melees for basically the entire offering is so much fun, and it's a welcome relief to what you're usually doing, and it's just a fun way to mix up gameplay and keep Destiny fresh. If you have ever found yourself getting bored of strikes, throw this puppy on and you will not be bored anymore. So guys, that's gonna start to wrap up the video. However, I have done 2 Titan builds in a row. Comment down below Hunter or Warlock, and whatever one gets more comments is going to be the class I make the next build video for. If you guys did enjoy this build video, and I hope you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.